All three of the officers who fired their weapons on the night Taylor was killed have been subject to previous internal LMPD investigations. Brett Hankeson's personnel file includes multiple sexual assault allegations, at least 3 internal criminal investigations, and a use of force file that's 104 pages long. In a 2008 email obtained by Vice News, a lieutenant recommended an internal criminal investigation into Hankeson and 2 other officers accused of beating up a juvenile. She cited, quote, the allegations and, unfortunately, the employees involved, who have had use of force cases in the past where it always comes down to their word against the complainants. Hankeson and the other officers were eventually cleared in that case. Internal LMPD investigations show that the department almost always ruled in Hankeson's favor. In 2012, Hankeson was elected to serve on the Police Merit Board, which helps make decisions about police misconduct. This past January, he began his 4th term and continued attending meetings even after being placed on administrative reassignment. Hankeson was on the board until June 23rd, the day he was fired. We reached out to Hankeson's lawyer for comment, but never heard back. Vice News has spoken with multiple former LMPD officers who said the department regularly covers up bad behavior. One of them, Richard Gibbs, has worked for 6 police departments in his career and says nothing came close to the unchecked misconduct he witnessed within LMPD. He retired from the department in 2015.
I don't even feel good like I used to feel about being a police officer.
Did you witness police abusing their power on the force?
Yes, I have. And the biggest one is use of force, putting your hands on somebody when you don't have to. I've even seen situations where I went to do a narcotic search and the guy's telling me that is not mine. They put that there. Little bag of dope, some crack.
Do you believe that person?
Yes, I do, because there is situations where that's done.
But that's a crazy thing you just said. You just said that you're a former police officer, that is something that's done.
Yes, dropping dope. They call it dropping dope.
Who's they?
Police officers. Teabagging is when you squat over a person's face and either put your genitals close or on them. And this particular lieutenant did this, and it was a joke. It was a laughing joke throughout the department. And nothing was really done to him, taking someone's dignity, squatting in their face.
This is to someone who was arrested, like in handcuffs on the floor, or detained?
Yes, this is someone who's arrested.
And what were the other officers doing?
Just like with Floyd, standing around looking.
Features of Breonna Taylor's case is how little information has been shared with the public. There's still only a minimal understanding of what even happened the night she was killed. Over the past 2 months, Vice News has interviewed neighbors, spoken with current and former police officers, and reviewed hundreds of pages of internal documents that together cast doubt on the credibility of the Louisville Metro Police Department and the ongoing investigation into Taylor's death by the Attorney General's office. One of the first videos to emerge from that night was taken by Naya, who lives upstairs. She started filming as police were ordering Taylor's boyfriend, Kenny Walker, out of the apartment.
Turn around and face away! Give me one patrolman.
You can hear Kenny.
He was probably not traumatized.
Keep walking backward! What the hell? I'm trying.
It seems like he's following what they're saying, following their orders.
He was. He got on his knees and everything.
Look at all the police out there.
How many police would you say, if you had to guess, were outside?
At least 20. And including the SWAT and stuff, it was a lot.
Naya wasn't the only neighbor who caught a glimpse of the commotion outside. Only 3 officers, Brett Hankeson, Jonathan Mattingly, and Miles Cosgrove, have been identified in connection with the shooting. But previously unseen cell phone footage obtained by Vice News shows as many as 24 officers on scene shortly after the raid, including several in uniform, who according to LMPD policy, should be wearing a body camera.
What is it about? You forgot to fire shots, you know. You just said you were not.
In the bed, we were scared. No, we didn't know who was.
But it's not just that there were more police there after. There were also at least 4 more officers present during the raid, according to Detective Mattingly's own testimony.
I scooted back, and I think at that time Miles slid up. I know Tony was behind me. Mike was to the right of the door with the ram. It was Brett, Hoover, and Campbell had come up around the corner at that point by the stairs.
So far, LMPD has never acknowledged whether any of those other officers were wearing body cameras. They've barely even acknowledged that they were there. Mattingly claims he and the other officers announced themselves. But so far, nobody else has corroborated that. Did you hear the police announce themselves?
No, they didn't say police or nothing, because if I would have knew it was the police, my mama, she would have never called the police from the jump. I heard come out and I heard shots. So my mama, she runs in the room, she's like, oh my God, they shooting, get down, get down. So she's calling the police.
911 operator guide, where is your emergency?
Please get a police out here. They are shooting back.
Okay, how many shots did you hear?
Man, they just shot about 7 or 8 or 9. They right here in front of my fucking house. And I got my grandbaby and my kids in here.
I'm hearing them say reload. Bop, 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 bop. They finally cut the lights on to let us know it was the police. So I'm like, Mama, the police is out here. So she hangs up with them. The police came all wrong. They came with undercover clothes, undercover cars. They didn't announce themselves or none of that. They did it heartless. They didn't care.
Has anyone come and talked to you from the police department, from the city, to get your version of what you heard, what happened?
The FBI is the only people that came up here and actually talked to me. But the police, they haven't came and interviewed me or nothing. So it's just sad. Now that I just think about it, it's just sad. Like, she should still be alive right now. She should.
At least half a dozen other nearby neighbors told us they also had never been contacted by the AG or LMPD for questioning. In response to a request for comment, the AG's office said the allegations were unequivocally false, but refused to provide any clarification beyond that. LMPD simply never responded. In response to the lack of transparency and accountability, David James, a former LMPD officer who now serves as the president of the city council, has proposed several changes to how the department responds to these kinds of incidents. And he's already been met with pushback in meetings with the police department.
We're doing virtual meetings right now. And that is my least favorite kind of meeting.
We've got several special guests, Dr. Bill Smock, Chief Robert Schroeder, Louisville Metro Police Department, and Ryan Nichols, the president of the Fraternal Order of the Police.
Councilwoman Sexton Smith and I had discussed early on during the Breonna Taylor incident why we don't do drug and alcohol testing at the time of critical incidents involving our police officers.
We have random drug testing, and then there is also a provision in the contract that states Metro government may require a member involved in a use of deadly force incident resulting in an injury to take a drug and alcohol test.
To your knowledge, has that ever taken place when an officer's been involved in a critical incident?
We have not, tested anyone involved in a critical incident, a shooting. Of course, there has to be some sort of a reasonable or suspicion or under the influence of something.
On July 14th, James and the other 10 members of the Metro Council voted unanimously to launch an investigation into the city's handling of Taylor's case. They, just like the public, are frustrated by the lack of transparency into what happened that night.
I really feel like because Metro government has not said what did or did not occur, it causes people to have less trust and belief in their government.
You said in a letter to the mayor that the trust between Louisville Metro and the people we serve is eroding at a pace that may soon pass the point of restoration.
Correct.
It's irreparable. Why did you write that?
Because it's true.
Do you think that the LMPD is capable of holding itself accountable?
I don't think so, because they haven't proven themselves to be able to do that. There's been time after time where things have happened, and it directly reflects upon LMPD trying to cover up bad things that have happened, mostly from the top. There were questions brought up about the children being molested, and it was all denied, but now we have 2 officers in federal penitentiary. It was brought up about abuse of overtime, and it was denied. And now we have officers in the penitentiary.
What do you think gets in the way of holding police accountable, of holding the police department accountable?
I really think it's leadership. And if you don't hold the supervisors below you accountable, then bad things happen.
Dogfish Head made it.
Why do you think more officers, current officers, are not speaking out?
They're scared. They're scared, and they've been brainwashed to think that you just don't do that. I never felt comfortable or even at ease of going to like the chief and say, hey, chief, there's some racism or some unfairness going on. Look into it. No.
Did you witness retaliation in the department?
I was pulled into an internal affairs investigation where an officer used excessive force. When I told the truth, the colonel kept asking me, is that the truth? Like, is there another scenario that you want to give? And I picked up on it right away that she was trying to get me to change my story. Well, this guy that was, alleged to do this got promoted. And that's what I've seen the police department do. When these people do things that are against policy, they're promoted.
What happened to you after you tried to tell what happened?
Just basically ostracized. For instance, if I wanted to try to get on another special unit, the door was shut. Blackballed.
Do you think that Breonna Taylor's case is an isolated example?
No, it's not isolated. If you dig in LMPD's history, they got a long history of shooting people. This city has buried a lot of bodies. There's a lot of skeletons.
Vital open records requests with the police department related to the night Breonna Taylor was killed, but they've yet to turn over any documents. The Attorney General's office declined a request for an interview. The Louisville Metro Police Department never responded. But we did sit down with Mayor Greg Fisher, who's been a target of the protesters demanding transparency and accountability, and who has both access to information about Taylor's death and the power to release it. The Attorney General's office, the FBI, they took up this case in mid-May, but Breonna Taylor was killed on March 13th. So you had about 2 months to share information with the public, to be forthright with them. You as mayor have the ability to share information. Why didn't you in those first 2 months?
So I said, let's put out the body camera evidence. Unfortunately, in this case,